the crisis in Crimea. In the light of the testament of Peter the Great. The so-called testament of Tsar Peter the Great sheds a different light, and helps us to understand the events in Kiev, which began in late 2013 and led to bloody street fighting in February 2014 and then to the modern-day crisis in Crimea in March. This testament can be seen as an expression of the global political will of certain Anglo-American circles. Peter the Great's will testifies to a very definite, long-term plan to build a link between the West and the East, without any intermediary, by cutting out the cultural and economic space of Central Europe. The West never pursues this goal directly, but indirectly, by influencing the Russian popular element and Russian politics in the direction that Peter the Great had once planned. For example, in the seventh main point of the will, he stresses, and on this depends the success of this whole plan, that a close alliance must be formed with England and direct relations maintained with her by means of a commercial treaty. It must be made possible for England to obtain a sort of monopoly in the interior of the Russian country, and thus relations will be built up almost imperceptibly between our nation and the English merchants and seamen, who will do their utmost to improve and increase the Russian fleet. And with such a fleet we can gain power in the Baltic and Black Seas. This is an essential point, on which the success of the whole plan depends. In this case, all we have to do is to say America everywhere instead of Britain, that is substitute the relevant great powers, and we have before us a political directive which is not only still valid today, but which was quite blatantly displayed in the year of the turn, 1989-90. And afterwards. 1. The Testament of Tsar Peter the Great. Russia's plan for expansion and conquest of Europe in brief details. 1. Everything must be done to ensure that the Russian people follow European patterns and customs. 2. The state must be kept in a state of perpetual warfare, so that the soldiers may be trained for battle and the nation may be in a constant state of readiness for battle. 3. To expand by every possible means northwards along the Baltic Sea and southwards. 4. We must arouse the jealousy of England, Denmark and Brandenburg against Sweden, it is about the regional great powers of the time, so that these powers will turn a blind eye to our expansion in the countries we will eventually conquer. 5. The House of Austria must be made interested in driving the Turks out of Europe. Under this pretext we must maintain a standing army and establish bases in the Black Sea. In this way, we must advance further and further to Constantinople. 6. Anarchy must be promoted and maintained in Poland, the country must be occasionally dismembered and finally completely conquered. 7. To enter into a close alliance with England, and to maintain direct relations with her by means of a commercial treaty. It must be made possible for England to obtain a sort of monopoly in the interior of Russia, and thus relations will be established almost imperceptibly between our nation and the English merchants and seamen, who will do their utmost to improve and increase the Russian fleet. And with such a fleet we can gain power in the Baltic and Black Seas. This is an essential point, on which the success of the whole plan depends. 8. 9. We must always appear to act as an ally of Austria, but in reality we must use all our influence to draw Austria into dangerous wars, and thus gradually weaken her power. 2. In the last 2 points of Peter the Great's testament, we can see the intellectual preparation of an imminent great war. We must prepare everything for the great blow in secret, so as not to give Europe time to think. We must propose, with the greatest secrecy and caution, first at the court of Versailles and then in Vienna, that we should divide the domination of the world between us, and this has started a war of life and death between them. In view of the extensive relations between these two rivals, and the fact that it will be in the inevitable interest of all the powers of Europe to take part in these quarrels, this war will soon become general. Translated with www.deepl.com web link, free version. Is Fijilum Kalvanuk, Pogi and 19. Sazad Kozipan Marvoltage Krimi Haboru Eftheki Tangenal, 1853-56, Amely Orishtora Haboru Volt Ujayan, Amanglias Franchus Sagas Bivat Kazada Harkokba, Megpitagoros Zersagelen, Esigiazakori Krimi Conflictus Chikislis Adonegi Europai Haboru Veslia Trejtat Megaban. Zavas Topolost Reminala la cult key in modern Kauri Tortanilla Mal Solo Habruja, a Krimi Haboru Iniadban is also Vilagaboru Alok. A Krim Kitan Titat Heliotos is Mutachabis Niels Nagati, Anglo-Americai, Korakoros Zers Zagel, Sati Jes Zeropaval Esaval Al Capsulidos Turbaban, Hogia 20. Zazad. Helmut von Moltkaltel Megjavendold, Kutz Zakas Bololo, Harmin Sieves Hebrugenok, 1914–1944/45, Vijfiel, Damara Kozpkliktatas Utani Edge, Ketbulasuvale Kunkail Akilasan Okjajaiban Migrandezits Zavadzedges Naji Hutlmig Zuxta Kazatipan Ekrem Felsitan Alauk Hato Jaltaban Tartata Churchill, Roosevelt S. Stalin Zvita level, as Voltazan. Jaltai Conference 1945 Februarjaban. Alegu Uri Tortanilambon Tahad Anegi Vilaj Sermani Ekadiloids Odontzpontasen as Tos Iranivan Lodkovedik, Omit as a testament and a lawyer. Iji mind Megajabizas Fiji El Til Megbiznios Politikai Espanai Ek, Zandkok Esekulanos Erasmuban Meg Foglnazot Turv Ekos Ot. As termes Zitzanamaz Gelante, Hogi Mindenki, Aki Ris Zbeszizik Nekovilaj Sermaniak Nekozlaki Span, 2 datos Muratekal Randelgzika Testamentum Tartmaral. Negi Peter Testamentum Adendo Anana Agat Okal Politikai Vilagram Lautinak Nagis Zabesukai Zodis, Imli Sijot Selgera Hasnalta S. Hasnalja Felis Slavsagnagato Zaramlatot. Negi Peter Testamentum Anakotosamost is Jelen van, S2 Vamuko Dick. 4. Mostani Krimi Conflictus S. Anegi Haboru Kitrasnek Kozalgo 100 Eves Ev Forgeloja, 1914–2014, is Fokazots Zelamaya Seger Intnek Benunkit, Oz Sfugsfeltar Asura. Oz Esmanai X Zalamai Haternek S Valadi Mosgatura Ok Felis Merazir. Kelomajis Meresi Munka S Tarkvs Hejnijionizami Goldatlan Kurzk, Afelnems Mert Os Sfugskestivadis Kaz Esmanai Ekajafajtamajis Mtlod says Vazathit Neket Tortanilamban.